Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about the best way to catechize your children is to have adults who are well catechized. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti, Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, secutor in principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. We have similar videos that I'll put a banner in. One of them, for example, is the number one mistake homeschooling Catholic parents make. And the inspiration for this episode is not that long ago, the Diocese of Columbus, Ohio announced that it was closing 15 churches. And some of the stats that I heard connected to it, and I couldn't find the stats when looking them up, were pretty daunting. I heard them on a radio snippet on Catholic radio. But something like in the last 40 years, the amount of marriages in that particular Diocese of Columbus in Ohio had dropped something like 60%, the amount of baptisms by 70%, the amount of enrollment tracked by the various parishes by at least 50%. So, I mean, these are just daunting numbers, and it's not like it's only endemic to the Midwest in a particular diocese. In Ohio, I'm sure you see these numbers in the large majority of parishes, not just in America, but also in Canada and probably in Western Europe. And any Catholic who loves the faith does not feel happy and euphoric when they hear these numbers. You get a little disheartened and you get saddened. And one of the things that the recently installed Bishop of Columbus said, like one of the things, and he tried to spin it in a way that was positive. Yes, it's kind of like what Benedict said when he was Pope. It's like the church is going to get smaller and smaller, but from this smaller group, it's going to be more energetic and more vibrant, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And he said that we have an opportunity to make the church grow here. And he talked about some of the positive things, like we have a big influx of Hispanics that are very vibrant. But he said the key is to having a energized lay who is interested in taking a leadership role. Now, he's not like trying to subvert. He's not a fifth column, communist priest who wants to bring in the lay to take on a role that's ordained, that the ordained would do. What he's saying is like more lay apostolates, more lay doing the work of education, evangelization, and just the day in, day out stuff at the parish as well. And I would totally agree with that. And so the inspiration of this video is kind of like that, because we always think about, when we have children, we got to get them catechized. And of course, we definitely need to get them catechized. Catechesis is exceedingly important. It is our responsibility as Catholic parents to put the kids in Catholic school or homeschool if you want to do it on your own or whatever. Just have them learn the faith. But I think there's a misdirection and a mispriority, because you can be, and I kind of see this with like public school, friends that I have who are public school teachers, how the parents have this mentality of just drop off the kids at school and let the teachers teach them. And I think this is wrong. Really, it's the parents' job to teach their kids. And you certainly see this. No, I wouldn't just say in the Catholic world, but probably in the Protestant world to a certain extent, where it's like, it's not my job to teach the kids the Catholic faith. That's your job, priest, or your job, deacon, or your job, Sunday school teacher, or your job, if you have them at a Catholic parish, that's your job, Catholic school. And I think that is not smart. Look, the number one person, and we make this vow when we have children and when we get married, is we are the number one educators of our children's faith. And so what is the point of dropping your kid off for catechesis? Especially, you see this kind of spike when it's like second grade for first confession, first communion, and then you see everything kind of lull for Sunday school, and then it spikes again around 13, 14 years old for confirmation. And we have an episode here how we really need to re-examine and reanalyze how we do confirmation in America, and how the ordinariate or how the Eastern churches do it. And I think they do it in a better way. But we just kind of have this mentality like it's not that important. And then after confirmation, it's like, okay, all your Catholic education's done, you're good. And it's like, would we really apply that to regular education to our children? Oh, you have a 7th grade education? That is all you need. Of course not. Of course not. So what is the point of, even if you have stellar religious education, and I've been in contact or relationship throughout my life with parishes that do a really good job with it and parishes that don't do a good job with it. But even if you're in a parish that has excellent catechesis for the children, what is the point if the adults know nothing about the faith? And one of the many reasons why you see these numbers dropping is because every generation you see the parents not really handing down the faith to the next generation. And then why would we expect those kids to grow up and have kids and expect them to pass it down if they themselves don't know the faith? And I would tell you that you can really see this anecdotally played out at Mass on most Sundays. If you look at a family, especially if a family that has kids maybe 8 to 18, most of the time these kids are completely checked out. And look, I'll be honest, half the time my kids are completely checked out, and I try to do the best to explain to them the importance of Mass. But if you look at a typical family, the kids are just checked out, and they don't care about the Mass. They don't know really what's going on with the Mass. And I think that what we need to do is, on the parochial level, is redirect religious education and make it more about the parents. Now, easier said than done, because at least with these parents that are maybe watered down in their faith, they still understand, well, I need to get the kids the sacraments. So either because they know the importance of the sacraments, hopefully that's the real reason, but sometimes it's just, well, so they can get married in a Catholic church when they get older. So at least there's a motivation for them to go and get the kids sacramentalized. But with adult Catholics, there's no motivation for them to go to classes. Sure, for every septuagenarian and octogenarian who goes to the Bible study at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, certainly you're going to have some people that are interested in increasing their faith. The large majority of adult Catholics at your parish, it's going to be very hard to motivate them to come learn the faith, whether they be in their 20s and they're wanting to get married and have children, or even in their 50s. And that's the problem, right? So we can educate the kids the best that we can. But those kids, as they grow older, we already know statistically their chances of being Catholic are very slim. We know it's 6% that they're going to be practicing their faith 10 years after they graduate from high school if they go to public school, and it's only 12% if they go to a Catholic school. So, I mean, they already have their own odds of them not practicing the faith. And then we just see the hemorrhaging of Catholic adults for every convert, we lose 7 Catholics in a given year. So, I mean, the adults are hemorrhaging, and there's a wide variety of reasons as to why that is. I would say it's just the overrunning of the secularist culture into the typical daily Catholic's world. And they've so bought into the secular world, the materialistic world, the postmodernist worldview, that they think that the Catholic Church is outdated, antiquated, or so forth. Or they have some bad experience with the church, maybe in confession, or they feel like the church doesn't meet them where they're at, or whatever it is. So you got to get to the adults. We got to educate and catechize the adults, because if the adults, whether they're 20s, 30s, whatever age it is, if they're on fire in the faith and they're knowledgeable about the faith, then of course when they have children, or if they already have children, they're going to make it more of a priority to teach the kids about the faith, to teach the kids to defend the faith, and so forth. And more importantly, teach them why religion is important. A lot of people leave religion because they just don't see why this is important. Why do I got to go to Mass? Why do I have to receive the sacrament? Why is this important when I can just watch Netflix? So you got to energize the adults. So what can we do on the parochial level? I don't know. I'm sure much smarter priests and bishops have thought about this, because you can come up with programs. I mean, you look right now, we're in that 3-year Eucharistic revival. 80% of Catholics don't believe in the real presence, so Lord knows it's needed. But we're in the middle of that. I don't know how effective that is. I would think that on some level, like if every parish had an adult catechesis program, that would be great. If every parish would have an adult apologetics academy of some sort to teach adults to the faith, but also how to defend the faith when you're approached by atheists or Protestants. I think these are great. The issue with that is you can have these programs in Our Lady of St. Typicals, as Father McT calls it. We could have these things, but how are you going to get the adults to go to these things? Even if you put them, let's say, in Sunday right after Mass or whatever Wednesday evenings, how are you going to convince people that are so set in their routine to want to come to these things? And I don't know. I mean, certainly if you're at like an ordinariate parish, and I know I was kind of apotheosized the ordinariate and the Latin Mass parishes, because typically you find people that are more into their faith, and it's probably less of a challenge at these parishes. But if you look at the typical suburban parish, where even on Sundays the pews are half full, and half the time those people are getting there 10 minutes into Mass and leaving right after the Eucharist, how do you get to those adults to convince them that it's important to learn their faith? I don't know. How do you convince them it's important to reinvigorate the parish? I don't know how you do that. And look, a certain segment of these adults are increasing their faith by EWTN or by various podcasts or YouTube outlets. That is true, but the large majority of Catholics, and we know this, do not prioritize the increasing of their Catholic knowledge, their Catholic faith at all, day in, day out. They just don't. And we see this played out with the hemorrhaging of Catholics. And I don't know how you get to it. But if any of you want to have children, you're at a certain age, or you already have children, and you really care about the kids learning their faith, and then more importantly, being raised and growing up and passing on the Catholic faith to their children, we got to target and market, or whatever you want to call it, to the adults. Because if we can get the adults well educated in the faith, then you're more likely to have these kids educated in the faith, and then when they get older, they're going to keep the faith. But right now, the prioritizing of the kids and not prioritizing on the adults has not worked well, as we've obviously seen for several decades. Guys, post in the comments. I would love to hear from you if you agree or disagree. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.